Hi, Captain Mike here with you. Today I have a video on something I didn't find it out by accident, but while I was trying to come up with some ideas for gifts for my grandchildren and some of their friends, I stumbled upon an addition to a video I have already made. I made one earlier on using all kinds of little bezels and bangles and things like this, and it's posted on YouTube, and it just is generic on how to do this, but this video is about using bezels and buttons, and it was just really great. I was just so impressed. Maybe everybody does this. I don't know. But I'm going to show you how to do this. It's a great kid's gift. It's a great, what I call a $5 or under project for craft shows. Those are what sells good at craft shows. People like to pay less than $5 for everything. So let me, real quick, we'll show you how I do this. You're going to need some bezels. They come in all shapes and shapes. Lord help us all. Sizes and shapes, and I get mine pretty much from the same dealer off of Amazon, but they're more or less the same. I put all the prices to all this stuff down below in the comments, and then you have a rough idea what you've got in one without looking at it all up yourself. But you're going to need an assortment of bezels. You're going to need some buttons, and there are more about these buttons later, where I got them, what I do to them. You're going to need some epoxy, and I'm using amazing epoxy. You can use whatever you want to use, and more about the different kind of epoxies later. I also have a video on the properties of various resins, so you can look at that if you wanted to, but this is just going to be how I'm using them in these bezels. As far as equipment goes, for measuring out your resins, you're going to need, of course, some kind of a digital scale. I do it in grams. You can do it however you want. You're going to need a pair of snips. I use these little snips that snip off really smooth on the bottom right here. You can use what you want to use and clean the rest of it up with an X-Acto knife. If you want to use gloves, you can put gloves on, but you're also going to need a couple of bamboo skewers or something like that to stir with and to apply the resin. And you will need, this is not necessary, but it's really recommended, you'll need one of these little butane torches, and that's to get the bubbles out of the top, and I'll show you how that works. You know, when you get your pendants made, you might want to use some different kinds of little chains. This is a little 2mm snake chain, come off of eBay. They're not very expensive. They're really nice quality for what you pay for them. And this, of course, is just one of those silk satin ones, and they come in all kinds of sizes, and they will cost anything. That's about all you're going to really need. I buy my buttons at Walmart, $1.99 for all kinds of themed buttons that have the button on the back. There's a little holder on the back. That's kind of the secret. You can use some others. I'll explain that in a minute. But buy these at Walmart, whatever theme you want, little ponies, fish, bees, animals, whatever. So you've got this. Here's what you're going to have to do. You unpackage them, and you'll take, in this case, it's a little shiny, pretty unicorn. You're going to take your snippers, and you're going to snip off the part that holds the thread, just like that. It'll go someplace, and you'll sweep it up later. Now, I take a sharp X-Acto knife, and I just kind of go over where I snipped it and get it as close to the back as I can. Okay, that makes it nice and smooth. Okay, now once you've got that done, you can take and put a little bit of E6000 on the bag, just a dab. I had some with me and I left it laying somewhere. But you put your little dab of E6000 on the back, stick it here. The E6000 is just to hold it steady while you put your resin in. You stick it like that, and then it'll stay there, see. And once you get that done, then you want to pour your resin in. Now, here's a trick on your resins. Get you a piece of glass. I use 1/4 inch, but you don't have to be glass, it can be anything, to lay your bezels on before you pour your resin. Reason being, if you do it this way and there's any rise right here in this bale, it's going to cause the resin to run downhill. So what I do is I put it just like that, and then I put my resin in it. Now I've mixed up 20 grams of resin here, and I've got about 30 minutes to use it, so I'm going to pour some on this little fishy. Then I'll go off camera and pour the rest before it sets up, and I'll come back and I'll tell you some of the other little tricks that you can use when you're doing this. Well, how I do it is, as far as putting the resin in, is I get me a bamboo skewer and I just get me a generous portion of it and drop it right on top of whatever the object is. If you have really good eye-hand coordination, you're not an old guy like me, you can probably pour it right out of the container and do just fine. I have a tendency to slop it everywhere when I do that, so I take my time and I use this little skewer. And some of these figures lend themselves a little better to be poured than others. Some of them just, require more, and they have more relief. The less relief they have, the better they will dome. But as you see, you take your little skewer and just kind of pull the resin wherever you want it. And watching the edge, you want to fill your resin up right to this edge. So here we go. We'll go ahead and put a little bit more, and then we're going to call this one done, although it could probably take a little bit more, but you guys get the point. You want it to kind of dome up here, but you don't want it to do so much that it runs out. And you look the little bezel over and the little animal over, whatever you're doing, and make sure you've got some resin all over it, because if you don't, it'll show up later. See, I missed a bunch of little spots here. It's going to make this video longer. Maybe I can edit it out. Anyway, that's all there is to that. So if I can get it up here close to the camera, you can get a good rough idea what it looks like before it starts to settle out and get hard. Now this particular resin sets up in 25 minutes. It hardens in 24 hours, and it does a great job. Now I'm going to tell you just a little bit something about resins. I have maybe, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 different kinds of resins. When you're doing bezels or jewelry, use a craft grade resin. There's a lot of, get on YouTube and look it over, and everybody recommends a lot of good ones, and all of them that are name brands are good ones. Now I buy a lot of bulk resin. It's really not designed for crafts, and what happens is if you try to mix it up in very small amounts, say less than 20 grams, it doesn't, the chemicals don't get hot enough inside for it to do the bonding. It'll stay tacky and rubber-like. So make sure you mix up, have a big enough project that you can mix up 20 grams. I hate to have anybody waste anything, but the more resin you mix together, the better it works. Smaller amounts just don't get hot enough, and they won't harden. Now, with that said, let me go pour the other bezels and animals, and I'll be back, and I'll finish up with just a couple of things here, and we'll get the bubbles off of this, let them rise. Okay, we've got all the bezels off screen poured, and I used the whole 20 grams of resin. It'll fill about 12 or so of these. Your mileage may vary. You'll have to kind of work that out. Let it sit a while, and since we're not using a pressure pot, you're going to probably have bubbles from all the stirring. If you have a pressure pot, that's great, it'll work. I don't have one, so I let what bubbles will rise to the top. Then I take my little torch that I bought from Harbor Freight, and some of the previous ones I bought there were no good. This one is a good one. It holds the butane pretty well, and it's easy to use. You know, just kind of do that, hold it down, you get your little blue flame, and just pass it over this. You'll see the bubbles go away. They go away just like that. That's all there is to it. And then you just click it again, and it'll quit, and you're through. All the bubbles are gone. At least the ones that I can see on the surface, and that's all that counts. Now, a couple of other things really quick, and I'll let you guys go. You can paint the inside of these if you wish before you put the resin down. I use this simple craft paint that I get at Walmart. It has the little wine glass on the top. You can take and you can put a couple of coats inside of one of these. You can put it in the oven and cook it to about 350 degrees for 30 minutes, and it'll be like a ceramic almost. But you don't have to do that. I just put a couple of coats, stick my object in the bezel, and fill it full of resin. Only time will tell whether the heating it will work better or not. But we're not talking about quality jewelry here. We're talking about some inexpensive jewelry that is still quite cute, and so far everybody has liked it. I talked about the necklaces that you can get, you know, off of eBay, and as I said, I'll put all of this in the bottom down here. These are real expensive on Amazon, about $5 for the same product. Walmart has them for $1.99. And pretty much that's it. You let them sit, you wait 24 hours, and you're through. Now, the last thing that I'll tell you that works good, as long as we're talking about buttons and bezels or whatever, is this is a button I just picked up off the ground. I'm sure it's a cheap button. It was a plastic button, and it had a back on it like one of these. And I cut the back off of it, and it just so happened it fit right in there. See? And worked out great. So if you had somebody who had, say, like a button off of their grandmother's wedding dress, or some, you know, something that was had memories to it, and it would fit in one of these, just think about it. You could take that and you could put it in there, even a picture, but the buttons is what we're talking about today. You could put that button from a gown or a dress or a baby's dress or something in there, encapsulate it in the resin, and it'd be a great keepsake. You could also get these in solid silver, sterling silver, and gold plated, and probably solid gold if you want to pay that much. But these are the cheap ones. They work great. Let's say inexpensive. Let's not say cheap. And that's it. That is what you get. I think that it's just, you know, it was cute enough that I wanted to share it all with y'all. And I hope that that shows up. And, you know, and you can see it really good. But they make great little necklaces, pendants, and I think there'd be a great demand for them at craft shows. So that's all I've got to say on this one. We're going to clean up and call this video through. I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.